Sevastopol, or traditionally Sebastopol, is a city located in the southwestern region of the Crimean Peninsula on the Black Sea. As a result of the annexation of Crimea by Russia, the city is currently a subject of territorial dispute between Ukraine, which considers Sevastopol as a city with special status, and Russia, which considers it a federal city within the Crimean Federal District. Sevastopol has a population of 412,630, concentrated mostly near the Bay of Sevastopol and surrounding areas. The location and navigability of the city's harbors have made Sevastopol a strategically important port and naval base throughout history. The city has been a home to the Russian Black Sea Fleet, which is why it was considered as a separate city in Crimea of significant military importance. Although relatively small at 864 square kilometers, Sevastopol's unique naval and maritime features provide the basis for a robust economy. The city enjoys mild winters and moderate warm summers, characteristics that help make it a popular seaside resort and tourist destination, mainly for visitors from the former Soviet republics. The city is also an important center for marine biology. In particular, dolphins have been studied and trained in the city since the end of World War II. Etymology. The name of Sevastopolis was originally chosen in the same etymological trend as other cities in the Crimean Peninsula that was intended to reflect its ancient Greek origins. It is a compound of the Greek adjective sigma epsilon beta alpha sigma tau omicron sigma and the noun pi omicron lambda iota sigma. Sigma epsilon beta alpha sigma tau omicron sigma is the traditional Greek equivalent of the Roman honorific Augustus, originally given to the first emperor of the Roman Empire, Augustus, and later awarded as a title to his successors. Despite its Greek origin, the name itself is not from ancient Greek times. The city was probably named after the Empress Catherine II of Russia, who founded Sevastopol in 1783. She visited the city in 1787 accompanied by Joseph II, the Emperor of Austria, and other foreign dignitaries. In the west of the city, there are well-preserved ruins of the ancient Greek port city of Chersonesos, founded in the 5th century BC by settlers from Heraclea Pontica. This name means peninsula, reflecting its immediate location, and is not related to the ancient Greek name for the Crimean Peninsula as a whole, Chersonesos Taurik. The name of the city is spelled as in English. The current prevalent speaking of the name is Sevastopol. The previously common-speaking Sebastopol is still used by some publications such as The Economist. In English, the current speaking has the pronunciation Sevastopol or Svistopol, whilst the former speaking has the pronunciation Sebastopol PL or Sevastopol PL. Ukrainian, Russian, pronounced Sevastopol in Ukrainian and Svistopol in Russian. Crimean Tatar, Akyar, pronounced Akujar. History. In the 6th century BC, a Greek colony was established in the area of the modern-day city. The Greek city of Chersonesos existed for almost 2,000 years, first as an independent democracy and later as part of the Bosporan Kingdom. In the 13th and 14th centuries it was sacked by the Mongol horde several times and was finally totally abandoned. The modern-day city of Sevastopol has no connection to the ancient and medieval Greek city, but the ruins are a popular tourist attraction located on the outskirts of the city. Under the Russian Empire, Sevastopol was founded in June 1783 as a base for a naval squadron under the name Akter, by Rear Admiral Thomas Mackenzie, a native Scot in Russian service, soon after Russia annexed the Crimean Khanate. 5 years earlier, Alexander Suvorov ordered that earthworks be erected along the harbour and Russian troops be placed there. In February 1784, Catherine the Great ordered Grigory Potemkin to build a fortress there and call it Sevastopol. The realization of the initial building plans fell to Captain Fyodor Ushakov, who in 1788 was named commander of the port and of the Black Sea Squadron. It became an important naval base and later a commercial seaport. In 1797, under an edict issued by Emperor Paul I, the military stronghold was again renamed to Akter. Finally, on April 29, 1826, the Senate returned the city's name to Sevastopol. One of the most notable events involving the city is the siege of Sevastopol carried out by the British, French, Sardinian, and Turkish troops during the Crimean War, which lasted for 11 months. Despite its efforts, the Russian army had to leave its stronghold and evacuate over a pontoon bridge to the north shore of the inlet. The Russians chose to sink their entire fleet to prevent it from falling into the hands of the enemy and at the same time to block the entrance of the western ships into the inlet. When the enemy troops entered Sevastopol, they were faced with the ruins of a formerly glorious city. A panorama of the siege originally was created by Franz Rubord. After its destruction in 1942 during World War II, it was restored and is currently housed in a specially constructed circular building in the city. It portrays the situation at the height of the siege, on the 18th of June 1855. Under the Soviet Union during World War II, Sevastopol withstood intensive bombardment by the Germans in 1941–42. Supported by their Italian and Romanian allies during the Battle of Sevastopol, German forces were forced to use railway artillery and specialized heavy mortars to destroy Sevastopol's extremely heavy fortifications, such as the Maxim Gorky Naval Battery. After fierce fighting, which lasted for 250 days, the supposedly untakeable fortress city finally fell to Axis forces in July 1942. It was intended to be renamed to Theoderichshafen in the event of a German victory against the Soviet Union, and like the rest of the Crimea was designated for future colonization by the Third Reich. It was liberated by the Red Army on May 9, 1944 and was awarded the Hero City title a year later. In 1957, the town of Balaklava was incorporated into Sevastopol. Sevastopol is part of Ukrainian SSR during the Soviet era. Sevastopol became a so-called closed city. This meant that any non-residents had to apply to the authorities for a temporary permit to visit the city. On October 29, 1948, the Presidium of Supreme Council of the Russian SFSR issued a ukasha which confirmed the special status of the city. Soviet academic publications since 1954, including the Great Soviet Encyclopedia, indicated that Sevastopol, Crimean Oblast, was part of the Ukrainian SSR. At the 1955 Ukrainian parliamentary elections on February 27, Sevastopol was split into two electoral districts, Stalinsky and Korabelny. Eventually Sevastopol received two people's deputies of the Ukrainian SSR elected to the Verkhovna Rada A. Korovchenko and M. Kulikov. After the Soviet dissolution on July 10, 1993, the Russian parliament passed a resolution declaring Sevastopol to be a federal Russian city. At the time, many supporters of the president, Boris Yeltsin, had ceased taking part in the parliament's work. On July 20, 1993, the United Nations Security Council denounced the decision of the Russia parliament. According to Anatoly Zelenko, it was for the first time that the council had to review actions and come up with qualification of them for a legislative body. On April 14, 1993, the Presidium of the Crimean Parliament called for the creation of the presidential post of the Crimean Republic. A week later, the Russian deputy, Valentin Agafonov, stated that Russia was ready to supervise the referendum on Crimean independence and include the republic as a separate entity in the CIS. On July 28, 1993, one of the leaders of the Russian Society of Crimea, Viktor Prusakov, stated that his organization was ready for an armed mutiny and establishment of the Russian administration in Sevastopol. In September, Edward Bolton accused Ukraine of converting some of his fleet and conducting an armed assault on his personnel, and threatened to take countermeasures of placing the fleet on alert. In May 1997, Russia and Ukraine signed the Peace and Friendship Treaty, ruling out Moscow's territorial claims to Ukraine. A separate agreement established the terms of a long-term lease of land, facilities, and resources in Sevastopol and the Crimea by Russia. The ex-Soviet Black Sea Fleet and its facilities were divided between Russia's Black Sea Fleet and the Ukrainian naval forces. The two navies co-used some of the city's harbors and piers, while others were demilitarized or used by either country. Sevastopol remained the location of the Russian Black Sea Fleet headquarters, with the Ukrainian naval forces headquarters also based in the city. A judicial row periodically continues over the naval hydrographic infrastructure both in Sevastopol and on the Crimean coast. As in the rest of the Crimea, Russian remained the predominant language of the city. Although following the independence of Ukraine there was some attempts at Ukrainization with very little success. The Russian society in general and even some outspoken government representatives never accepted the loss of Sevastopol and tended to regard it as temporarily separated from the homeland. In July 2009, the chairman of the Sevastopol City Council, Valery Saratov, stated that Ukraine should increase the amount of compensation it is paying to the city of Sevastopol for hosting the foreign Russian Black Sea Fleet, instead of requesting such obligations from the Russian government and the Russian Ministry of Defense in particular. On April 27, 2010, Russia and Ukraine ratified the Russian-Ukrainian Naval Base for Gas Treaty, extending the Russian Navy's lease of Crimean facilities for 25 years after 2017, with an option to prolong the lease in 5-year extensions. The ratification process in the Ukrainian parliament encountered stiff opposition and erupted into a brawl in the parliament chamber. Eventually, the treaty was ratified by a 52% majority vote, 236 of 450. The Russian Duma ratified the treaty by a 98% majority without incident. 2014 Crimean crisis. On March 6, 2014, in response to the 2014 Ukrainian Revolution, the City Council of Sevastopol unilaterally declared that it wished to join the Russian Federation as a federal subject. The City Council on the 11th of March released a joint resolution with the Supreme Council of Crimea to unite as an independent republic between the potential passing of the referendum and union with Russia. Ukrainian authorities and the international community strongly criticized the referendum decision. On March 16, a controversial referendum on leaving Ukraine took place in the city, along with the rest of Crimea. During the voting, the building of the Supreme Council of Crimea was controlled by the Russian military. The official reports by the organizers of the referendum were that a majority of 95.6% voted to become a part of the Russian Federation, albeit these results are contested. This referendum resulted in the establishment of the short-lived Republic of Crimea, which consisted of both Sevastopol and Crimea. On March 18, 2014, the treaty on the adoption of the Republic of Crimea and Sevastopol to Russia was signed between Russia and the Republic of Crimea, with the following content. The territory of the former autonomous Republic of Crimea is incorporated as the Republic of Crimea. The former special status city of Sevastopol is incorporated as a federal city of Russia. Both territories are incorporated as part of the Crimean Federal District. This new status is not internationally recognized. Crimea and Sevastopol is still considered by Ukraine, the European Union, most nations and the United Nations as part of Ukraine. Geography. The city of Sevastopol is located at the southwestern tip of the Crimean Peninsula in a headland known as Heracles Peninsula on a coast of the Black Sea. The city is designated a special city region of Ukraine, which beside the city itself includes several of its outlying settlements. The city itself is concentrated mostly at the western portion of the region and around the long bay of Sevastopol. This bay is a river canyon drowned by Holocene sea level rise, and the outlet to Chorna River. Away in a remote location southeast of Sevastopol is located the former city of Balaclava, the bay of which in Soviet times served as a main port for the Soviet diesel-powered submarines. The coastline of the region is mostly rocky, in a series of smaller bays, a great number of which are located within the Bay of Sevastopol. The biggest of them are the Southern Bay, the Archer Bay, a gulf complex that consists of the Deergrass Bay, the Bay of Cossack, the Salty Bay, and many others. There are over 30 bays in the immediate region. Through the region flow 3 rivers, the Belbek, Chorna, and Kacha. All 3 mountain chains of Crimean mountains are represented in Sevastopol, the southern chain by the Balaclava Highlands, the inner chain by the Mekhenzev Mountains, and the outer chain by the Karatau Upland. Climate: Sevastopol has a humid subtropical climate, bordering on a humid continental climate, with cool winters and warm summers. The average yearly temperature is 15 to 16 degrees Celsius during the day and around 9 degrees Celsius at night. In the coldest months, January and February, the average temperature is 5 to 6 degrees Celsius during the day and around 1 degree Celsius at night. In the warmest months, July and August, the average temperature is around 26 degrees Celsius during the day and around 19 degrees Celsius at night. Generally, summer holiday season lasts 5 months, from around mid-May and into September, with the temperature often reaching 20 degrees Celsius or more in the first half of October. The average annual temperature of the sea is 14.2 degrees Celsius, ranging from 7 degrees Celsius in February to 24 degrees Celsius in August. From June to September, the average sea temperature is greater than 20 degrees Celsius. In the second half of May and first half of October, the average sea temperature is about 17 degrees Celsius. The average rainfall is about 400 mm per year. There are about 2,345 hours of sunshine duration per year. Politics and government. In 1954, both Sevastopol and the remainder of the Crimean Peninsula were administratively transferred by Nikita Khrushchev from being territories within the Russian SFSR to being territories administered by the Ukrainian SSR. Administratively, Sevastopol was a municipality excluded from the adjacent autonomous Republic of Crimea. The territory of the municipality was 863.5 square kilometers and it was further subdivided into 4 raions. Besides the city of Sevastopol proper, it also included 2 towns, Balaclava, Inkerman, urban-type settlement Kacha, and 29 villages. Until recently, Sevastopol had no elected mayor. Instead of chairman of the Sevastopol city-state administration, would be appointed by the President of Ukraine, and functioned as a mayor. As of December 2014, the political status of Sevastopol remains uncertain, with most of the international community recognizing the city as part of Ukraine, while it is de facto controlled by Russia. On March 18, 2014, the Kremlin announced that Sevastopol will become the 3rd federal city in the Russian Federation. The 2 others are Moscow and St. Petersburg. City-state administration. The executive power of Sevastopol is exercised by the Sevastopol City-State Administration, led by a chairman. Since April 2014, the executive power is held by the government of Sevastopol, led by the city governor. City Council. The Sevastopol City Council is the legislature of Sevastopol. Under Ukrainian law, the mayor of Sevastopol is appointed by the central government in Kiev. However, during the 2014 Crimean crisis, The pro-Russian city council threw its support behind Russian citizen Alexei Chaly as the people's mayor, and said it would not recognize orders from Kiev. After the accession of Crimea to the Russian Federation, the mayor is appointed by the legislature branch on nomination of the Russian president, and officially the mayor is called the governor of Sevastopol city. Administrative and municipal divisions being a disputed territory. Sevastopol has two sets of laws governing how its administrative and municipal divisions are set up. Under both Ukrainian and Russian laws, the city is administratively divided into 4 districts. Under the Ukrainian laws, the districts have both administrative and municipal status, while under the Russian laws the districts are purely administrative and have no further divisions. Within the Russian municipal framework, however, the territory of the federal city of Sevastopol is divided into 9 municipal okrugs and the town of Inkerman, while individual municipal divisions are contained within the borders of the administrative districts. They are not otherwise related to the administrative districts.